Support comes from Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to sustainable and sound conservation of the state's forests, which support more than 41,000 Missouri jobs, resulting in a $10 billion industry. ChooseWood.com.
This is St. Louis on the Air from St. Louis Public Radio. I'm Elaine Cha. Welcome to St. Louis on the Air. I'm Elaine Cha. Later in the hour, we'll talk about new spots in town for great eats and drinks and get heady about beer and beer foam with our friends at Sauce Magazine. But first, when it comes to spelling, we all have those words, the ones we dread or don't even attempt before turning to spell check. Maybe it's accommodate. Is it one C or two? A single M or double? How about liaison with an I that shows up twice but looks wrong from certain angles? But what makes a word hard to spell on your computer isn't quite the same as spelling it aloud at a spelling bee in front of a crowd and on a stage surrounded by competitors. It certainly didn't seem easy when Charlie Brown attempted it.
The word is beagle? Oh boy, that's an easy one. That's his dog. He'll get that one easy. Charlie Brown's at the threshold of being the champion speller! Yay, yay, B-E-A-G-E-L. Beagle. Ah!
Even in animation, the spelling bee is not for the faint of heart or the overconfident. Today, we're going to explore what's abuzz in St. Louis around bees. We'll meet an 8th grade champion who's training to take it all at the Scripps National Spelling Bee in May, for example. But it's not just kids getting into this. This Friday, an adult spelling bee will feature 22 contestants, each vying to raise money for their cause of choice. Some of these adults used to compete as kids themselves. T. Parks is a writer, MC, and storyteller. And when she was in the 3rd grade, she found herself in the top 10 of her school's spelling bee.
My word was guaranteed. There's a U in guaranteed. Oh, and little Tiara, she forgot that U, and being the top 10 literally disqualified me because I forgot that U. And I'll never forget the day because it felt like yesterday. We were in the gymnasium. The whole school was there because it was like a really big competition. And my dad was there. My dad is a stickler about keeping your head high and keeping your head strong during the entire competition. And I was so upset with myself, I ended up putting my head down, like my whole head down into my knees, to my lap. And again, just imagine a father's voice through a gymnasium echoing, saying, "Tiara, keep your head up. Put your head up now." And I was like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. But I'll never forget that. And I did keep my head up. And I'm here today to redeem myself. The little 9-year-old in me is ready to come back for that win that she knows she deserved. And we won't be missing any U's this go round.
That was T. Parks. She spoke with our producer, Danny Wysentowski, earlier this week. She's competing for the Freedom Community Center. Now, T isn't the only contestant coming to this event with the aim of resolving some childhood spelling bee trauma. When she was in the 8th grade, Danny Eichenhorst came painfully close to winning a regional spelling bee championship. Now, she's out for redemption.
You know, some kids have sports. I was excellent at typing and spelling bees. I was definitely an indoor kid a lot of my childhood, but every year I seemed to make it out of the grade school spelling bee into a regional spelling bee. I did it all the way up until you couldn't do it anymore. And I remember my second to last year, I was pumped, I was ready, I'd studied, and then I came down with the worst case of chickenpox and could not compete. So 8th grade year, I think it was, I was ready to go at it again, whatever my last year was there. And I was studied, I was ready, I made it to regionals, and sure enough, I got out on the word tariff, of all things. So I will never, ever misspell that word again.
That was Danny Eichenhorst, CEO of Hustle Hospitality, and a contestant at the Adult Spelling Bee this Friday at 6 p.m. at Work and Leisure. Her chosen charity is Promo St. Louis. We'll have more info about the event linked on our website. That's stlonair.show. What those adult contestants are facing on Friday isn't easy, but they are not at the level of Sonia Kulkarni. Sonia Kulkarni is an 8th grader at John Burroughs School. Last month, she survived 16 rounds of rigorous do-or-die spelling to land her spot in the biggest spotlight in spelling, the Scripps National Spelling Bee. It was no easy path. In the St. Louis region, more than 200 students competed in their school spelling bees. Only 28 nailed perfect scores, and Sonia was one of them. So March 5th's Regional Spelling Championship at St. Louis University was a battle of perfection against perfection. It included words like Groenendael and onychorexis. But round after round, Sonia proved she was up for the challenge, and in the end, she was the last contestant standing and holding a trophy and the title of the 2024 St. Louis Regional Spelling Bee Championship. And she joins me now. Sonia, welcome to St. Louis on the Air.
Hi, thank you so much for letting me be here.
So tell us the story, Sonia, of what inspired you to get into competitive spelling.
Yeah, so I was very young when I gained an interest in spelling. I've always had an interest in reading and writing and words, but probably when I was in around 2nd grade, I met the Scripps National Spelling Bee champion, Gokul Venkatachalam. He won. He was from St. Louis, actually. And I was so inspired by him when he actually came to my house and I met him. And he showed me that with hard work and effort and the time you put into something, you can truly achieve any dream you want. And since I had already loved words, I thought this was the perfect path for me. So I was so inspired by him to compete. And I started competing in spelling bees at 2nd grade, but I didn't actually start competing seriously and working that hard until around 5th grade.
So let's talk about your most recent victory, which we mentioned in the introduction. Last month, the Regional Spelling Bee Championship was held at St. Louis University, which is just down the street from where we're sitting now. How confident were you, Sonia, going into it? And was there any buzz, apologies for the pun, about contestants before you actually went in for the competition that day?
Yeah, so I was confident, but not really, because I understand that there have been spellers who have won regionals and gone to nationals and everything, but the next year they lose, generally on their last year or something. So I did not want that to happen to me. I really wanted to go smoothly, and I wanted to go to nationals for my last time. I was confident, but I was also very stressed and pressured because it's my last year of competing. So I really wanted to go to nationals and improve on my performance from last year.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, people did know that I won, especially the people that were returning. I did have people coming up to my dad and, asking questions about it and congratulating me from last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you are a 2-time regional champ. So there's this saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? You were talking about some of the pressure that you were feeling and all the preparation that you put into this year's competition because it's the last time you'll be able to compete. Did you change your strategy or training for this year's competition?
Not really. I would say that probably when I was younger, I had different strategies, especially in actually competing. For example, when I was in 5th grade, I didn't know much about language patterns and roots, words, and how to figure out the spelling of a word if you have never seen the word. I didn't know much about that, but I feel like now I've definitely developed those skills much better, and I've prepared for that by learning about different languages and root words. So yeah, I have altered some of my preparation. I've learned a lot over the past few years in spelling. I've definitely put more time into spelling this year because it is my last year.
So how is it, Sonia, that you practice?
So I practice as many hours as I can in a day. It depends because of the homework I have, but I generally quiz for around an hour with my mom daily, if she can.
Okay.
And then I practice by myself as well. I practice lists and, the unabridged dictionary, but I also have to prepare for words that I've never actually heard of. So root words like from Latin or Greek and just language patterns in general.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk a bit about the challenge that comes specifically with competitive spelling. What is it that makes a word hard to spell? I mean, is it mostly like not recognizing a word, or are there other components that lend to making something difficult to spell out?
Yeah, I would say that what makes a word difficult is probably, that you've never heard it before. But I feel like what makes a good speller is if you're able to figure it out. So I would say that if a word comes from languages that are really tough, like Dutch or Afrikaans or something, they have really complicated language patterns. So those are tough. And also, there are certain categories of words that are tough, I would say, like homonyms. Those are really tough.
Sure.
Because you have to memorize the definitions as well of all of the different words.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure you're spelling the right one, and those are easy to get confused with.
Are there words that you have learned that just are really interesting to you, or do you have a favorite word?
So I would say that one of my favorite words is the longest word in the dictionary. Yeah, pneumono-ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what does it mean?
It's like a lung disease caused by volcano dust.
Okay. Well, it sounds like a lung disease that could also be caused by the word itself.
Yeah, definitely.
And as an activity, you talked about how long you practice and that this is a team effort. It has to be fun for you on some level. Yeah. What is it that makes it fun?
I've always thought that the English language is so fascinating because English is a borrower of other languages. It doesn't really have its own patterns. Most of the words, they come from other languages and other words from the language. So certain sounds in English, they're spelled differently. And I find that so cool because I get to learn history about the word. I find that so fascinating that there are so many English words that can come from just one word in another language. And that's what makes English such a unique language because it comes from so many other languages.
And you are asked to spell the American spellings, right? I was born in Canada, so I put U's in places that...
I see.
Yeah.
Actually, I think either is fine.
Oh.
If they allow the British spelling, I'm not totally sure about that.
Yeah.
I feel like at nationals they'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
And if they're not okay with that, you'd probably make an appeal or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your winning word this year, the regional competition, was suspiration.
Yeah.
It means a long, deep sigh. With that as an example, Sonia, can you walk us through how you approach a word step by step?
So, yeah, definitely. I try to focus on the pronouncer and the word. I try to not think of the audience or getting it wrong. That's not what you want to do. You want to concentrate on the word and make sure that you're able to figure out the correct spelling of the word. And especially at nationals, it could be very overwhelming because of the cameras and everyone watching you. that's very stressful, but you can't think about that. You have to focus on your word. Something I like to do is write the word on my hand because that can help me keep track of all of the letters and make sure that I don't miss anything in the spelling. Actually, I think one of the worst ways to get out in a spelling bee is if you know the word, but you say the wrong letters on accident.
Okay.
I feel like that's horrible. So I feel like writing it down on your hand, that helps you visualize the spelling of the word. And it's a technique that I use so I don't mess up on saying the letters. And something else I like to do is ask for all of the information of the word to make sure I'm not missing anything and to use that as a technique to help me spell the word.
And just to clarify, the writing that you're doing is with your hands, right?
Yeah, I just use my finger and I write on my other hand.
On your palm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the pronouncer, what does a pronouncer do? And have there been any instances in which a pronouncer has given away more than they're supposed to?
So the pronouncer's job is to pronounce the word and give all of the information if the speller asks of it. And I feel like there has been an instance where a pronouncer has pronounced the word wrong on accident, but gave a hint on how to spell the word because they pronounced it wrong, but that gave a hint to the speller about how to pronounce it because that's not actually how it's pronounced.
Okay.
Help them spell it.
I have a little bit of experience with pronunciation challenges here. So you had really tough competition in the spelling bees here in St. Louis. And last year, I understand it came down to you and a 9-year-old.
Yeah.
What is it like to compete against kids who are younger than you are and have these amazing skills?
Yeah, I'm blown away by them. Honestly, I'm not sure if I would have been able to do that in 3rd grade. I was kind of late to the spelling experience, I would say, but I picked it up really quickly. It's really cool because actually my brother's a 2nd grader and I don't know if he has it in him yet to memorize all of the words in the list that they give. So they give a list. I think it has around 4,500 words. So they ask from that, and then they can also go out of the list. And it shocks me that the 3rd grader was able to memorize all of them. And also, it kind of reminds me of me because when I was in 5th grade, I also was the youngest or one of the youngest in the competition against an 8th grader, and I got 2nd place to her as well. So, yeah. And also, this year, I was also against a 3rd grader. And she got 2nd place.
Wow.
Yeah.
It makes me feel like I have not done enough with my life. We need to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Sonia Kulkarni, the St. Louis region's 2-time top regional speller who's preparing for her final chance at winning a national championship. This is St. Louis on the Air on St. Louis Public Radio.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to conservation and careful management of the state's forests to make them more resilient and better habitats for wildlife. ChooseWood.com.
Welcome back. Let's return to my conversation with Sonia Kulkarni. She's an 8th grade student at John Burroughs School. Last month, she won her 2nd consecutive regional spelling bee championship. In May, she'll represent the St. Louis region at the Scripps National Spelling Bee in Washington, D.C. Sonia, do you ever feel like it's more work than fun? And in those times, what is it that you do, maybe that you say to yourself in order to push through that?
Yeah, definitely there are times when I would not feel very motivated or feel like it's not that fun. Probably instances where I have to sacrifice things for spelling. For example, I had to quit piano class for this because I was so dedicated to spelling. And also, I don't really have that much time to hang out with friends or go to events or parties or something. So that is not that great, but I realized that it is worth it. It's worth it to go to the nationals and compete. I do sometimes get unmotivated to continue on because
Right.
it is hard. The spelling bee is really hard, and there's a lot of preparation that goes into it. But actually, my dad, he's a very good he's very good at motivating people. He gives me motivational speeches a lot when he thinks that I'm not as motivated as I can be. So I definitely appreciate him for doing that. One of his favorite quotes is actually, "Rise like a phoenix through the ashes of defeat," which basically means that if you are feeling defeated or if you don't want to continue, you should not give up. You should stand back up and continue fighting. So, yeah, I really appreciate my dad for continuing to motivate me.
Is being on stage part of the reason that you enjoy what you're doing? I mean, what is it like to be on stage? And then when you're up there, how is it that you keep your focus? I mean, spelling can stress some people out.
Yeah,
You're doing it in front of a lot of people.
Yeah. So it's like a roller coaster of emotions, I would say, because it goes from being really stressful and you can feel possibly relieved if you know the word, and you can also, there are so many different emotions that you can feel. Definitely when I'm stepping on stage, I'm really nervous to hear the word. If I know it, I'm probably a little bit relieved, but I want to make sure that that's the word I'm thinking of, so I ask for all of the information and everything. But if I don't know the word, I would probably get more panicked, but I have to keep my composure and keep calm because I have to make sure that I get all of the information and try to piece together the word, because I feel like spellers, they have to be detectives and try to figure out the word with the clues that they get from the information. So it can be very stressful, and there are a lot of things that can distract you, but you can't let that get to you. And also, other spellers are really supportive and encouraging of you. Like, once you're done spelling, they'll give you high fives at nationals and everything.
Okay.
And like, good job, congrats.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a great environment.
So there's camaraderie that's happening
definitely.
there. And speaking of that, your journey is not done in May. That's when you'll head to Washington, D.C. to compete in the Scripps National Spelling Bee. It won't be your first time there, because as you've mentioned before, you were there last year. You got pretty far. When you get to the national competition, will the words that you're being given be much harder than the ones that are presented at the regional level?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like at regionals, it's not as tough because, especially when I was in 5th grade, I feel like the reason why I got all the way to 2nd place, even though I wasn't as prepared as my other spellers there at the competition, was because I was just following the technique of spelling it how it sounds. And just spelling it the way I feel is right based on the information. So I feel like that's the level of regionals. It is pretty tough, and when they go out of the list, the words do get tough. But nationals is definitely way harder because only the first 2 words at nationals are from the list. So it's spelling and vocabulary, but after that, all of the words are out of the list. They're really tough.
But you got quite far last year, number 23. What was the word that stumped you?
So I got stumped on the word gingivi. It's like the gums.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah. I was disappointed about that, but now I have a chance to go back and redeem myself.
Okay. So that's a word you'll never forget how to spell.
No.
Okay.
Definitely not.
And how is it that you bounced back from that? I mean, is there something in particular that you do to do what your father has told you about rising from ashes? Practically speaking, how do you do that?
So I will say that it is hard to get back up and continue participating in the bee and keep fighting even if you faced a loss. That's really tough to do. But I just have a passion for words. So honestly, I don't think that the loss and disappointment will actually impact my preparation and everything, because I put in so much work. I'm not going to give up for my last year. So I'm just going to try and give it my all this year.
Mm-hmm. You talked about the spirit of friendliness, sportsmanship, camaraderie among all of the competitors. And you were there with kids from around the country and also from the world.
Yeah.
What is it like to meet these other kids, of a range of ages too, who are equally passionate about competitive spelling?
Yeah, it is so cool to meet those people because they're so different, but also similar to you because you share the same passion of words. And I haven't really met that many people who have shared an interest in language and words in general. So going there, that's where I meet everyone in the world and in the country that are so interested in English and have the same passion as me. So I'm glad that I get to form those bonds of friendship with them and get their inputs on English and spelling. It's really cool to meet them and become friends with them.
The Scripps National Spelling Bee, it will kick off on May 26th, and it's going to be the last one that you're eligible to compete in. How are you feeling about going on this trip? And is there something that you think that you will miss or that will be a little bittersweet?
Yeah, it's definitely bittersweet because I've been competing for so many years. And I am stressed because it's my last year and I do want to do good. I feel like your last year, 8th grade year, is the most stressful year because it's last year. But I'm so excited to go back to nationals and redeem myself, hopefully. And I'm glad that everything went smooth and I won for the second time. So it feels so amazing because I remember last year, it was such a great experience. It's not just spelling there at the event. It's like a week-long event where you can bond with so many other people. And there's so many other events that happen. Like you can take a STEM class or an art class or, painting. And there's like a banquet. You could go to Washington, D.C. and do sightseeing there. So it's such a great event. It's such a memorable experience. I'm not going to forget the experiences going there to Scripps National Spelling Bee.
And so as a final word from an expert, what advice do you have for kids or even adults who want to get into Spelling Bee?
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like the most important thing is to never give up and to know that if you put in a lot of effort and hard work into what you do, you can make any dream of yours, not just in spelling, in anything you want. You can make that a reality. You can make your dream come true. So if you just put in all that hard work and you realize that you shouldn't give up, again, like what my dad said, rise like a phoenix to the ashes of defeat. You should keep fighting and make sure that you keep your eye on the prize.
Yeah. Sonia Kulkarni is an 8th grader at John Burroughs School in St. Louis. Last month, she won the 2024 St. Louis Regional Spelling Bee, and in May, she'll represent the St. Louis region at the Scripps National Spelling Bee in Washington, D.C. Sonia, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Now, Sonia is exceptional. She has a shot at becoming the first national champion from St. Louis since 2015. Ryan Wilson, the director of the Regional Spelling Bee competition, has spent the last 2 years watching Sonia win. And for Wilson, the spelling bee is as exciting as any sport.
I would say Final Four, Kobe versus Jordan. Wow. That's what I would say. There were two young people that were going back and forth. There was a 9-year-old student and an eighth grader going back and forth in words. And we went through over 10 rounds just with those two individuals. That was something I'd never seen before, to see people just going back and forth, as you might say, taking a ball, but taking words and then shooting the hoop, and it was a clean shot. So just to see two young people going back and forth with words is amazing.
Wilson has seen a lot of kids take the spelling bee stage. He offered some advice for the next generation of spellers and for their parents.
Definitely say have fun. I think parents do take it to a little extra degree, but I want students to know, and I want families to know, that this is a fun time for them, and they need to understand, the parents need to understand that the student needs to take it on themselves. This is not something that the parents should take on, like, hey, I want to make sure my son or daughter is the spelling bee champ. No, the student has to have it, and I think Sonia does have that. Sonia's parents don't tell her to make sure you do your words. Sonia does it herself. So I wish parents let the student grow, let the student do their thing. That's what is most important to me for the future.
That was Ryan Wilson. He directed the Regional Spelling Championship held at St. Louis University last month. He's also the university's Senior Director of Community and Student Engagement.
This episode was produced by Danny Wissentowski.
Audio engineering and podcast design by Aaron Dorr.
Our executive producer is Alex Hoyer.
St. Louis on the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio. Understanding starts here.
St. Louis on the Air proudly supports local artists by using music from Life Creative Group.
Do you find yourself regularly listening to episodes of St. Louis on the Air? Suggest us to a friend you think might enjoy our conversations, and leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts on the App Store. It's the simplest way to help people discover our show. Thank you.
St. Louis Public Radio is a member-supported service of the University of Missouri St. Louis.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, providing more than 41,000 jobs in the production of wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details at choosewood.com.